You're not falling all over the screen, hey? Had a viewer named Arjun Singh ask what my favorite character on Game of Thrones was. So that prompted me to do a whole video, which is what tonight's video is going to be all about. My top 5 favorite Game of Thrones characters. We just finished episode 2 of season 5. How are you enjoying it so far?
Oh man, I'm really liking Game of Thrones. I remember 2 years ago people saying, oh, you gotta watch Game of Thrones, you gotta watch Game of Thrones. Kind of the type that it seems to take us a while before we finally take people up on it. And so it was Bangalore Comic Con that we have to thank for getting us into Game of Thrones. Hey.
Stand shot. There you go.
You just messed up my monologue.
I know, but your face was halfway up the screen.
You threw off the Emperor's Groove.
Oh, gosh, keep going, Daenerys. Jeez.
Because of Bangalore Comic Con and having 2 characters from Game of Thrones being there, Ford had to get caught up on his Game of Thrones, and so we started watching. And I really, really enjoyed it.
My top 5 and some of the reasons why I like them. All right, my number 5 is Jon Snow. And I think of him as the privileged guy who has a social inhibition. Like, because he is an illegitimate son of Ned Stark, that kind of puts him, even though he is from a higher house, what are you doing?
Being annoying.
You are. Even though he is from a higher house, he has this social block that keeps him from being all that he could be. I like him because, like Ned, he has a sense of justice and loyalty, but unlike Ned, he is willing to learn nuance. Ned is just too much of a bull in a china shop. Ned reminds me of me, just like, all right, this is wrong, we gotta do something about it, and then just gets his head cut off for this trouble. The Starks were just, always a little bit too irony, like, oh, we gotta do it this way, and not being willing to be flexible. And Jon has showed that you have to be flexible if you're playing the Game of Thrones, and if you're serving the realm, which I think really Jon, that's what he's trying to do. He's really trying to do the right thing, not just the thing that's gonna get him ahead. There's a sense of honor about Jon, and without Jon, Sam wouldn't be where he is. Sam, the coward, has proven to be such an important part. And without Jon, Sam wouldn't have made it, So Jon's my number 5. Anything you want to say about Jon?
You know nothing, Jon Snow.
But see, he's proven he does know something. He does. Oh, there are many spoilers in the rest of this. So if you haven't seen up through season 5 yet, maybe you shouldn't watch. And this is what I know up until now. Okay, so some of these things, maybe these people turn out to be idiots later on. Well, they're not going to turn out to be idiots in the next 3 episodes, but maybe by the end of the whole story arc, all of a sudden, because you just never know with this show. I mean, somebody can just turn on a dime. You're like, oh. All right, my number 4 is Grey Worm, and the thing I admire about Grey Worm is that even though he has had such a horrific life, that when he is finally given his freedom, he uses the bad stuff to help make a better kingdom for Meereen and Astapor and all the places over here that Daenerys is trying to free. So he's using all the terrible things that life has thrown at him and turning them into something good. There's a really great interaction between him and Missandei, the circumstances of which are a little bit sketchy, but he's thankful that all that happened, otherwise he wouldn't be here. He wouldn't be able to defend Daenerys, he wouldn't be able to set these other slaves free, and that just takes a huge amount of character and self-sacrifice. I think too often we get into this cycle of victimhood where even when we're set free from whatever was our oppressor before, we want to just keep paying it backward, going in the same cycle. And so he's trying not to do that, and it's incredibly difficult if you've ever been hurt by somebody. All right, number 3 is Tyrion. And Tyrion is, of course, relatable because, all his faults are there for everyone to see. An interesting character because he has the privilege, kind of like Jon Snow, but even more so than Jon Snow, he's even lower because he's a dwarf, and also because his mom died giving birth to him. So his sister hates him, his father hates him, and so even though he has privilege, he has a very complicated road to walk. Nothing really is coming on a silver platter to Tyrion. He has to fight for a lot of stuff because so many of people on his side are against him. He does the right thing more often than a ton of other characters, even though he is a Lannister and so many people hate the Lannisters, and you kind of, there's a part of you that just wants to see them all get wiped out. He is the one with a sense of justice and with a sense of wisdom, and does stuff not just because out of loyalty to a family name, but because it's the right thing to do. So I really admire Tyrion's character. Number 2, Daenerys Khaleesi, the queen of the blah, blah, blah. She has like 85 titles now. I mean, it's obvious. Like, she's setting people free. I mean, she does have an agenda trying to get back to the throne, but the throne needs her, as we've seen from 4 seasons of this Game of Thrones mess. And however crazy her father was, honestly, people talk about how bad the Lannisters are. No, the Baratheons look worse. Let's be honest. Part of the reason Cersei is such an evil person is because Robert Baratheon treated her like junk. She can take credit for 70% of her evil because she was bad to Tyrion from day 1, and that flashback scene in season 5 shows she was already a spoiled brat.
I'd say you really probably need to take some of that, a lot of that, and give it to her father.
Yeah, that's true too. Okay, so we'll say 35% Cersei, 35% Tywin, and 30% Robert Baratheon. I'd split it up like that. Well, Jaime has to get some credit too, because if he would have, been more of a man in the whole situation, and so she's surrounded by 3 men who are jerks, and the problem is she doesn't blame the 3 who need the blaming. She pins it all on Tyrion. But she has definitely some men problems. 3 men in her life that are horrible people. And, well, Jaime is probably the least horrible of those 3. But Robert Baratheon was terrible to her. Cersei gets a lot of the blame, and I can't stand her. But at the same time, I do understand why she made the choices she made. But Daenerys, on the other hand, she's like the exiled queen. And so it's just cool seeing her have to earn it while everyone else is trying to steal it or take it. Like, she's trying to work her way to actually bring justice to places, and it's difficult. Like in this last episode, I mean, the type of decisions she's having to make and how it's unpopular it is. I like how this show doesn't just romanticize what it means to be a leader and making the hard decisions that it takes to be a leader. And it doesn't portray like, oh, okay, you're all excited when the slaves get freed, but the decision those slaves made in this last episode is just BS. Like, they're wrong. And how does she deal with that when the slaves she's freed are making bad decisions? Tough. All right, number 1, Varys is my number 1, and the reason so far, I believe he is honest whenever he says that he is serving the realm. And so you see someone who has gone through such crap, rather than just spending all of his time like Littlefinger just to get everything. He's trying to get everything for the realm and to bring peace. And so the decisions he makes, and sometimes you think he's a backstabbing, cheating. He is doing what must be done with the situation that is at hand. So with Ned Stark, he can't save him because Ned's a freaking idiot. And it just keeps happening. He can't save certain people. He has to do that with Tyrion. Like, he has to tell the truth because the Lannisters are in power. Like, he has a limited amount of power. What can he do with the power that he has? Who is he going to support? So he does all that he can to try to mitigate the damage that all these idiots around him are doing, because they're all idiots. Tywin is the least idiotic in terms of military strategy and a lot of political planning, but he has a vice just like everyone else. Tyrion's vice is lust. Cersei and Jaime's vice is each other. Tywin's vice, though, is his hatred of his son and this sort of family honor thing that really comes down to whatever he wants to do. So Varys has to deal with all these people who have these vices, and how is he going to play these vices against one another to make sure that the realm doesn't suffer more, that more of the poor people in the street aren't going without food, that people aren't dying needlessly. And so far, I feel like Varys is the one who is gotten himself into such a position of power where he can actually do something about that. Whereas, the guys on Castle Black, there's not much they can do. Okay, so if you prevent the White Walkers from coming in, that's great and all, but meanwhile, all these humans are killing and eating each other in King's Landing, so it's like you don't even need White Walkers to come in to do this devastation. So Varys is trying to fight the evil within the human race, and also he's against the crazy-fied priestesses and priests who are using magic and sacrificing people's organs And as a
And whole bodies.
and whole bodies, you know, as someone who suffered from that, he realizes the danger of this dependence on these, you know, the Lord of Light or these different who are willing to sacrifice other humans to gain power, which is trash. And he is on guard against that, whereas not many people are, and a lot of people don't think it's even real. And so when they actually see it, that's why so many people are just like, oh, wow, magic works. Oh, we got to join with Stannis because he's powerful, because he's got magic on his side. And Varys is like, nope, I've been on the receiving end of, or the power-giving end of the magic, you know, so I know the bad side of it. So that's why Varys is my number one. So who's your favorite character in Game of Thrones? Or if you want to do a top 5, give us your top 5. Or you can give us your top 5 most hated characters in Game of Thrones. I got a whole list for that, too. Who'd you be your number one?
Number one hated person
Or
on Game of
both,
Thrones?
or number one hated, or
The Boltons.
The Boltons, dude. Which one, Roose or Ramsay?
Well, at this point, Ramsay seems to be the one doing all the dirty work. So, Ramsay.
That dude. I didn't know it was possible to dislike someone more than Bratface. What's his name? Joffrey. I didn't know it was possible to dislike someone more than Joffrey. Or to dislike someone more than Theon Greyjoy. And now they make you actually sympathize with Theon Greyjoy. I will say that for George R.R. Martin. That is incredible writing. Incredible writing that you sympathize with Jaime Lannister and you sympathize with Theon Greyjoy. That's amazing.
Yep.
All right, so who's your most loved character?
I don't know. I can't answer these kind of questions very well. It's too much.
Okay, you don't have to pick the absolute favorite, but who is a favorite? Who are you happy when it's like, oh, it's time to see so-and-so again?
I like Daenerys. I like Bran. I like Jon Snow.
You were rooting against him there for a little bit, though.
He made some bad choices that he...
I
like the wolves.
She likes the wolves. Hey, that's true.
Well, we've rambled long enough about Game of Thrones. Until
there you
tomorrow,
go.
YouTube, keep it...
Well, not tomorrow. Well, yeah, tomorrow. We got CID coming at you, Holly Bolly trailer of CID with a little special part. So that'll be coming tomorrow late, probably Sunday, 3 a.m. or so. So you can, check out for that. So until then, keep it creative.
Keep it cross-cultural.
And keep it constructive, YouTube. Thank you very much.